All right, so I've got a new link there. So if you could just confirm that one's working. And if someone could probably put that on the chat, or put it on the comment or the chat on the old video, that would be great. All right. So what are we up to? Oh yeah, so we're redirecting input and output. So let's create this whole program here in task 8. And we'll replace it in here. That's not part of the program. So the first thing we want to do, so we've got the greater than sign, single greater than sign is creates a new file with the output from the program. So that's that. And you can see I've added another logging line into my code. I put in a warning, so you can see the warning there, and it just says what the Python version is. Python version is sys.version. So we're getting the warning coming up to the console, even though we've redirected the output to this file called myname.txt. Now, if I look at myname.txt, type myname.txt, it's still just the original print statement went there. Now I could run the program again, and this time rather than use the single greater than sign, I'll use the double greater than sign. And what double greater than sign means is it appends it to an existing file. Right. So when I run that, once again I got the logging message still coming up to the console. If I look in the file, I get it twice, because that's the first time I ran it, and then the second time I appended, so I got it again. And every time I append, it will just keep growing and growing the file. So it's really good for some sort of log files, but of course you can see the logging isn't going to the file, only the print statements are going to the file. So let's have a look at this final version. And what this one does is it redirects standard out to myname.txt, and there's another thing called standard error, which is output 2, and I'm going to say that's going to go to another file called myname.log. So at the moment, standard errors is showing on the console. But we were going to redirect that output to a different place. And so if I look in myname.txt, it's back down to one line because I did a single greater than, which means overwrite anything that was previously there. And I've done a single greater than sign on the 2 and created a file called myname.log. And that's where the logging message has gone. Okay, now Leo has said line 224 has issues with earlier Python versions. My 224. Let's go back. Have a look at 224. Yes. So if you want to make it compatible with your earlier Python versions, just get rid of that equals sign on 224. And so that's came in Python 3.8, I think. So if you're running an earlier version than that, you won't be able to use that equal sign. All right, so that's the output. We've done standard out, which is a single greater than sign, or double greater than sign. We've done standard error, which is the 2 in front of them. That will also work with a double greater than sign. Let's now do how we can take input into our program. So let's create a new file called InReader. We'll create a new file, and in this file it's just a short little program. So let's have a look at what it does. So it uses the sys library, and the sys library gives you access to any command line arguments that are provided, and they're stored into a variable called argv. And what we're going to do is we're going to take every line that comes in, and we're just going to print it out in the reverse order. Okay, so let's save that and see if we can run it. So if I just ran it by itself in reader.py, it'll say my arguments are that. Okay, so that's how I ran the program, by just giving the name of the program. And now everything I type, which is what is considered to be standard in, it'll reverse it for me. So if I type Tim, it'll give back Mitt. If I say a dog, it'll come back God. All right, now to finish the program, because that'll just keep going on forever, I'm going to type Control-C and bring me back to get back my command prompt. All right, now I can also, rather than the command line taking standard in from the keyboard, I can take standard in from the output of another program. So on Windows, like I could have the program type, and we'll just see what that does. That just shows me the contents of this file, myname.log, and I can take that output from type and direct it to become the input for InReader. So the way I do that is I use the pipe symbol, and for me that's shift and the key above the enter key on my keyboard, or you can just copy and paste, and then py InReader.py. So my arguments are InReader.py, so that's what sys.argv tells it, and it's taken all the input that's come into it through this pipe and reversed it all. And so you can see here it is, warning, root, Python version 3.9.5 and tags, and so it's just done the whole thing backwards. So that's pretty useful. If you're wanting to do this on Unix, use the cat command rather than the type command, which is Windows. All right, now task 9. So this is, we're going to only run a particular bit of the code if it's run as a script and not imported as a module. So we're going to use that, what we worked out before, that the value of name changes depending on how the program has been run. So let's grab some code here. And what are we going to call it? Let's go into Notepad. I'll fire up another Notepad, and we'll call it run or import .py. We'll create a new file. I'll paste in our little bit of code here and save that. So if I run that from the command line, it says I am running this file as a script. And then if I run it from the console, so I go into the console and say import run or import, it says importing run or import. So it's just running this second bit of code here. And so you can do lots of different things in each of those sections of your if statement, and you'll see this quite a lot in sample code that you'll see. Okay, good to see you back, Dave. And I hope you've found the new link. Okay, so task 10, command line arguments. Oh yeah, so normally when you run programs, so for example we ran Notepad and we put an argument after it, which was the name of the file we wanted to create. Similarly with type, and the name of an argument was the name of the file we wanted to create. So in Python we can write a script that will take arguments after it as well. So let's create a file called argreader, and that'll take in arguments, and that's what it's going to do. So I'll quit out of here. Create a new file, paste it in, save that. And now if we run it, that's how we're going to run it. Oh yes, we're going to run it and we're going to put some arguments after it. So these are the arguments we're going to do. So you can see the arguments are separated by spaces. And we'll see what that looks like. All right, so these are the arguments. So the first argument, which is index 0, is actually the name of the program that was just run. And we've also, I'm saying what the type of the argument is. So it's a type of string. In fact, they're all strings. So all the arguments are coming in a string. Even so, ONE was our argument index 1, ONE. The digit 2, but it is also type string. Was there, then 3, then 4, and then FIVE, because they've got spaces in them, they've all come through as separate arguments. Now you can see the quotation marks haven't been included for 4. So if you've got any special characters, characters that are likely to get interpreted by your shell before they even get to your program, then put them in quotes so that your program will see them properly. And we can even put spaces in there. So you can see FOUR, it's waited till it closed the quotes before it's gone on to look for a space to separate the next argument. Okay, we've got a question here from Dave. I apply the command to open the name.py file from Notepad++, but it fails as expected with the path of where the actual notepad is not the virtual environment. Oh, okay, so that's that's interesting to know. If you're trying to run them from within Notepad++, I didn't know you could do that. But let's see if I've got Notepad++ installed on here. All right, so I've got Notepad++. It's brought it up in my name.py. I guess it's in run. Is that run the one that you've tried? Program to run. I don't know how to execute this, so if someone knows, they can let me know. Let's try another example of command line arguments. This one would try ones which start with dashes and double dashes, because that's a fairly common way of doing command line arguments in programs. And so it's just split them up, dash H, dash VV. So really just taking them literally as they appeared. Okay, so now we're going to use one of the standard libraries that comes with Python called argparse. And if you want to see a real life use for argparse, you can look at Meetup 110, the file Tim Virtual Printer, and that's where we're using it. So this is really, we're now running a tutorial on how to use that. So let's create a file called numwords. And we'll create that one. And it's just going to be a short little program here that uses argparse, and that's all it does. Okay, so very simple use of argparse, and it's just going to so we import the library. We just say that we create a parser, and then we just parse any arguments that got passed through to it. Okay, so what does that do when we run it? So if I run numwords, nothing happens. Now I'll run numwords, and I'll say dash dash help. And now argparse is actually returning all this stuff to us. It's going, oh yeah, well, if you want to use it, you can use numwords.py, and you can use an optional argument, dash h, and the optional arguments are dash h, or alternatively dash dash help, and that will show this message, help message and exit. So let's try dash h, see if that works. Yes, it does. It does the same thing. Now we'll just try just any sort of number after it, and it gives us an error and say this is an unrecognized argument. So argparse is doing a lot of work for us, and just we've only really run one line of parse args, and it's producing this help message, and it's also validating the input that we're getting. Okay, Dave's got some more information for us. I applied the command to open the file name.py from within Notepad, and it fails as expected as the new file. But it also states the directory is not the path where we created the folder, but where the Notepad. Okay. Well, you should be able to create a new file from within Notepad and save it into the folder that we created things. Let's try. So if I say new file, print success. Okay, we'll save that. So I click on save, and now I've got to navigate to where I want to go. So I'll presume that I wasn't there already. So I'll go Python into here, and I don't want it to be a normal text file. I want it to be, let's see what it gives me. Python file, and I'll call it, we'll just call it test notepad. Okay, and I'll see if I can run it from down here. Test Notepad++, success. So that worked for me. You might say that it worked because I opened it from this directory. So let's close Notepad++ here, and I'll try running Notepad++ from the Start menu, and we'll create a new file. Once again, it'll print success, this time in uppercase. Save that. We'll choose Python files. And I'll call it test 2. I'll quit Notepad so it doesn't affect anything. I'll run that. The second version, and that also worked. So I'm not exactly sure, but maybe if you can work out if I've done something differently to you, Dave, in that procedure. Okay, task 12. Add a positional argument using parser.addArgumentNumber. All right, so let's add this line here into our notepad. And I'll just close all of these ones we're not using anymore. So we'll add the argument here, and then we'll pass all the arguments that have come in. So I'll save that. And so the question we had before, we tried to run numwords.py213, and that now works. Doesn't do anything, but it now works. And now if I call up the help, I can see the help's been expanded. It says now I've got one positional argument, which is what this is, and I've got one optional argument, which is -h. And so the optional argument can come before the positional argument. You'll probably find it might even work after. So let's try after and see what it does. Well, once again, it does nothing, and it does the help. So, yep, that worked. So that's task 12. Let's have a look at the solution. So the solution has done a little bit more in there. So let's copy the solution into Notepad and try running it and see what happens. So when we've created the argument parser, we've now added a description, and so that's and it's going to say it's going to convert number into words. And when we've added this argument number, we've also put in some help text, say that the number in digits convert into words, and we've also put in a type to say it's going to be converted to an integer. And then we're actually going to do something with that argument. So args becomes a namespace that we can call args.number, and it will give us what the number is that got passed in as an argument. So let's save that and try running this fantastic program. Okay, so the help now says meetup 115, running Python from the command line, convert number to words, and we've also got some help text here after our positional arguments. It didn't actually do anything, so let's run it again without the -h. And now it's we can see that it's grabbed the number that's been passed in, 213, and it's actually converted it from a string to an integer using that type. And so what we supplied here was actually a function. So that int is the name of a function, and it calls that function on top of the text that we passed in and converted it. So that's how you convert strings to integers, is just run the int function, and so that's what it's used. Okay, looking at the code for meetup 110 as a hint, so accept an optional parameter for log level. Okay, so let's have a look at 110. So I'll go back to the session summaries and we'll look at 110. And so this had a lot of tasks, and then we had the actual code. So you've got here one, add an argument for log, -- log. So let's add that into our code. So it's an optional argument. So it's got the -- log there. It's got a default value, so it doesn't have to be provided. If nothing's provided, it'll use info. Action just says store it in just like number got stored, and it's got some help text saying how to use it, and it's also got a list of choices. That's right, and we want a new line there. Okay, so let's try running this. So I'll save that. Maybe we should and we can set the log level. Okay, so we'll grab these two lines. Don't need that. We won't worry about formats for now. So we're going to get the numeric level by looking at the logging library. So I better import logging. It's going to take the value of log. So it's going to come in, it's what's come in by this named argument, and it's going to convert it to uppercase and use that to get the numeric level, and then it's going to set the logging to that level. And let's just print out the level as well. Okay, so as before, nothing happened, but the logging level is printing out as 20, which is info. So I can set my log level to debug, and now the log level is 10, and that's correct. Let's try setting it to deb, and now I get an error message saying it's an invalid choice. It has to be one of these: debug, info, warning, error, or critical. Okay, let's see how I go if I type in debug in lowercase, and it doesn't recognize it, so that's no good. So my choices there have really limited it. It has to be in uppercase. So this little function I did here, trying to convert it to uppercase later, that was too late. It didn't even get to there. And it got the argparser stopped the whole thing from working. So let's go back to our solution and see how it was solved in the solution. So I'm just going to I'll replace the whole lot. Okay, so the differences here in the code, we put in -- log. We can also put in a short code, so you can do that as well. So -l is a short code, -- log. I don't think it matters which order those go in. You could have done the long code first, then the short code. default was the same. That's all the same. Now type is interesting. We didn't have a type before, but now we've put in a function and it's string.upper. So what it's done is gone to the string class, and then in that found the method upper, so it can convert anything that we type into uppercase. And then the rest of it all looks pretty similar. And it's even got a logging statement in there as well. So let's save that and try running it. So I'll run it with the same command with the lowercase debug, and this time it worked. And we even get our logging message coming out, info, and it says that we got the number 213 coming in. So that's normally, if you're running command scripts, you would actually put the positional arguments at the end and those optional ones at the beginning. And you can see it just works the same way. All right, that will also work if I said warning. And you see now, because I've set the log level to warning, we don't get the info logging message coming out. Okay, add an argument to output results in uppercase. All right, so we've done a couple of arguments here. So let's create a new one. We'll call it case. So -c -case. Default will be, let's have 3. We could have original case. Oh, actually, we want the default to be lower. We want the default to be original, actually, and the other action is going to be upper. So the two choices are going to be original or upper. And I won't need to bother setting any of this for the moment. I can convert it to upper. Okay, so print args.number, and we'll just say if args.case equals upper, then we'll print, that's Notepad's put in a tab, or just use spaces instead. And we don't actually have something to convert, so let's just say that we're going to do it. Otherwise, print it without upper in front.